In this episode, the Dorks welcome in Jen Clark from General Sheet Metal out of Portland, Oregon. We had fun in this episode listening to Jen's journey after college. Her path took her all over the map in more ways than one. She found a home at General Sheet Metal and then discovered a passion for process and technology. This is a great conversation with a contact who has blazed her own path to a position where she gets to spend each day digging deep into the company's tech stack to see where she can make her coworkers' lives better. Enjoy!
And we're live. Dorks are coming at you. Brand new episode. We're here with Jen Clark of General Sheet Metal and Mr. Travis Voss, and we're going to have a nice conversation on the sheet metal side of things for a change. Travis, I mean, we don't have a lot of sheet metal people on.
We're dragging more in with my new position, so hopefully this will be continue that streak.
Yeah, and it's always good conversation with them. But I have a special drink tonight, Travis. So 2 weeks ago, when I got home from Fab, we did apples. Well, actually, I think we did it right before Fab. So I have fresh apple cider from my backyard, hand pressed by me and child labor. Because I got my youngest daughter to like go out there and help me pick apples and take them down. It's not hard cider; it's just normal cider for right now. But it's a really fun drink, and I have to say, this time of year, it's fall, and I'm in one of those areas that really changes seasons. So like we juiced apples, and then we juiced grapes, and now I'm like looking around, and all the nut trees are dropping things. So it is harvest in full swing. Travis, what are you
Yes.
drinking today?
Well, I've been on the road a lot lately, so I'm trying to recover. You can hear my voice a little bit. I'm a little raspy for some allergies and stuff too, so I'm just drinking good old well water from our local village well here. But it is definitely that time of year. Well, in the rural Midwest here, I was out in Des Moines this week and driving from here to there. You go down the Mississippi River Valley and stuff. And it's like you can just tell that the trees are just starting to turn, and like in a week or two, it is just going to be gorgeous through that drive. So hopefully I'll get the family in the car and head down there and see the leaves changing all along the river. And of course, being where I am, all the harvest is starting to happen. You're starting to see. It's been fairly dry lately, so a lot of the farmers are already out getting their corn and soybeans in since they don't have to let it dry in the field quite as much. But enough about that. Jen, why don't you go ahead and introduce what you're drinking? And before you get into yourself and your company, like we were at Jen is part of our SmackDown Construction Technology Committee, and she was telling a little bit of her story one night at dinner. So I would really like to just start your introduction from there.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, I am drinking some Brew Doctor kombucha, representing Portland, Oregon, Portland made. I live in Portland, Oregon, and it's tasty. And I'm still
Now,
in my office, so not doing the hard liquor
I was
quite
going to say
yet.
it's not hard kombucha then,
It
right?
is not. Maybe in a few hours. But yeah, kind of talking about my story. So I mentioned I live in Portland, Oregon right now, but I'm originally an East Coaster. Grew up in Connecticut and then lived in Philadelphia for a while. Went to college at Villanova University outside of Philly. Spent about 4 years working out there after graduation. But I've kind of been through a wild ride getting to where I am, both career wise and geographically. Um, like I mentioned, college in Philadelphia. After I graduated college, I went to Honduras and volunteered at a children's home for a year. So I've had a little bit of just living abroad experience, which was super cool. Gave me a chance to kind of be a jack of all trades, just doing some tech stuff, doing some teaching, I think I was their IT expert, which was really low key, but we had a little computer room and I just rebooted a lot of computers and did my best to make them not have viruses. So that was really exciting. And then after Honduras, worked in Philly for about 4 years, doing something super random. I studied civil and environmental engineering in college, so it would have made sense to go into engineering or construction, but instead I somehow got into sales at a software support and training company. So I was
Okay.
trying to sell IT like phone support for about 4 months. Luckily, I got promoted out of that really quickly into an operations role because I am not a salesperson. Um, and yeah, I just kind of helped build out a training department at that company. Really grew it from a few kind of one-off opportunities each year. We were doing a couple $100,000 worth of trainings, like webinars and in-person training, mostly on like Microsoft Office, Outlook, that kind of end user stuff. And then I joined that team, helped build it, worked with some other really great people, tried to learn more about instructional design and all that kind of thing, which was not my background. And we wound up being about a $10 million line of business by the time I left
Nice.
after about three
Wow.
and a half years. Not all my doing, but I did what I could to help.
Mhm.
Um, so that was kind of an odd trajectory for my career. But then I decided I was kind of tired of Philly, wanted to change. I was in my late 20s, so I quit my job, took like a 3 month long cross country road trip by myself, explored kind of all over the place. I went from Connecticut all the way down to Florida, across to California, up the West Coast, middle of the country, Yellowstone, Montana, Colorado, Utah, just seeing the sights, doing a lot of hiking, doing a lot of exploring. And I feel like that whole experience of just travel and being really on my own for a couple months um, helps kind of helped me get centered into like, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? What do I want my future to look like? And so then I decided, hey, I liked the West Coast. Portland is a little bit more affordable than Seattle, so I'll just go there. And I moved and got into construction. Did not know what sheet metal was when I moved to Portland, Oregon. I met somebody out here who was also from Philly, and she said, "Hey, there's this sheet metal company that might be looking for project managers." And I said, "Hey, I'll shoot him an email and see what happens." And that was almost 7 years ago at this point.
Wow.
So now I've been a member of GSM since 2018. Started off as a project engineer working in the field on our architectural projects. So I'm still kind of playing catch up on the ductwork HVAC side of things in terms of my learning experience, but really focused on exterior cladding, architectural sheet metal. Uh, helped run a bunch of projects, ran a few projects on my own as a PM before eventually a couple years ago raising my hand to our president at the time and just saying, hey, I think there's a gap in our company in terms of trying to get the different departments and teams aligned. I think our technology is a little bit all over the place, and I really think I could help us solve a lot of problems. So I kind of pitched a role that wasn't there, and the rest has been history. And now my title is currently Project Integration Manager, totally made up, but that is a thing in some IT roles, I guess. But it's really just kind of focused around bringing the different departments and teams together, helping streamline our tech stack. Sometimes that's getting rid of stuff, sometimes it's making it work better and fully utilizing it. It's been a great learning experience, kind of diving deep into technology. I've learned a ton both about construction and the tech side of things, and I'm just trying to make the company better day to day.
How many years have you been at that?
It'll be about, I think it'll be 2 years officially this November since I started in this role. Feels both longer and shorter.
Yes.
So coming in from the role that you had before,
Mhm.
what was the biggest difference in like culture between that sort of the more markety side of things and then construction? Because we do have a lot of people that cross between software and
Yeah.
especially on the markety side of software and construction, but there really does seem to be a difference in culture. Well, like what did you observe?
For me, it was definitely, I mean, I came from a relatively casual company, so at least in terms of dress code and stuff, I was used to wearing jeans to work. But definitely it was more corporate. I think we were kind of chatting before we went live about like cursing in construction, and that was weird going to meetings and just hearing people use language that I was not accustomed to at work. So I would drop my own in every once in a while just to seem cool or seem down to earth. But it was definitely a learning experience. And just different vibes. But I think on the one hand, I've been used to working with a bunch of guys, going to engineering school for college. I'm used to being um, around a lot of dudes, so that has not been all that strange for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a little rougher around the edges. But I've mostly just been super impressed by how smart everyone is. Like the things that go into construction, the stuff that people have to think through, the design, the coordination. I mostly my mind's just kind of blown by what all these guys and women too, but just
Right.
what all these people can do because it's a whole side of the industry that I never really knew about. Even going to engineering school and civil engineering, I visited construction sites in college, and I just didn't realize how much went into the building side of things versus the design and the math and all of that background.
Right. Yeah. It is a different world to kind of, see how the sausage is made, right? And
Hmm.
all that goes into it. I think that, but it is interesting too that each of those roles that you talked about, you still you maybe didn't feel like it, but you were still doing engineering and process, right? So I
Hmm.
think that's probably what kind of rankled in the back of your mind when you're running or helping to run these projects. Like the process isn't there, right? Is
Yep.
that kind of what made you raise your hand?
Absolutely. I like to problem solve and fix things and kind of get to the crux of the issue. And I think that's really what's kind of has bothered me in the past. And now I feel a little bit more enabled to kind of just like go after it and try to fix it. Is just seeing, hey, there's this gap. The foreman and the PM aren't getting with the information that they need, or we know there's a problem over here, but no one's really doing anything about it. And so I love being able to just kind of plug myself into that and just be a conduit between these different teams of really talented people, but just trying to connect the dots where there wasn't really a straight line before.
Sure.
Were there any early problems, like when you were first starting, when they first gave you the
Mhm.
position, like 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, you can take this on"? Were there any problems that you were focused on that you really just said, "Okay, I have this one"?
Hmm. The first one really was just our tech stack. I think I was in the role for a couple months, sitting in on team meetings and just trying to get a better feel for the different parts of the organization before I went to our exec team. And I was thinking for like 2 weeks about how to present my idea. I'd gone to Procore's Groundbreak
Hmm.
conference back in I think 2018, right after I started, and I was talking to a lot of software vendors trying to find a replacement for our project management tool. I really didn't like it at the time, and I wound up finding this tool called QuickBase, a low
Yeah,
code, really customizable platform that I've been using, and I was trying to figure out how to pitch it to my exec team, the ELT. Um, just so that we can minimize how many different tools we're using. And after a long time going back and forth, I literally put a PowerPoint presentation together. It was 2 slides. It was one kind of listing like, hey, here's like some process problems we have, and then one just showing this big crazy structure of how we use this system for this and this for this and this for this, and these talk but these don't talk. And then this is what it would be with QuickBase. It could be here and it'll talk to all these things and we can get rid of all this other stuff.
yeah.
And so really just try to take the clutter out of our technology and showing that I understand what we are using and what we're trying to accomplish, and we can simplify the heck out of it. Um, was my pitch. So that's really was the focus. That was the beginning of my focus on what I've been doing. I mean, building in QuickBase is a big chunk of my role because it's the easiest tool for me to use to just fix problems. But even through that, I've learned so much about our ERP system. I've learned so much about our you know fabrication orders, our logistics and deliveries, and just getting a better feel for all these different tools that we use and what can talk and what can't talk. That was kind of my focus back then. It's still my focus now. I feel like it just kind of shifts and evolves, but it's been really gratifying being able to build new tools and just fix things that people didn't realize could be fixed. They just thought that's the way we do it.
Right.
We're always going to send this PDF back and forth via email over and over again. It's like, no, you don't have to. We can just
Right.
do this
Right.
once and everything else is done. And just cutting some of that manual work out of it has been a lot of fun.
Was there anything else in the tech stack that you decided, like, rather than build, you just go out and buy? Because if I know combing through those can be loads of fun.
Mostly like some add-ons. I mean, there's certain things that I would love to get rid of it, but it makes sense. Like tools that we use to order, ductwork. It's very specialized. I'm not going to recreate that myself. So we haven't really gone out and bought much more, but it's utilizing the stuff that we already have better. I
Yeah,
think is more of the avenue I've gone down.
I like that you really you came in what I would almost call like the second generation of construction
Mhm.
technologists. Like myself and John were that first generation where we had the explosion of technology on the market. We had all these point solutions. We had all
Mhm.
these individual fires to put out and these things to throw together. And then someone like yourself comes in and be like, God darn it, John, look at this mess you've created. We've got all these disparate systems that don't talk to each other. So it's
Mhm.
really kind of cool. And John and I will empathize with you too, like throughout kind of the middle part of our career. That was that was kind of the next thing is as we were, as the industry kind of, there was acquisitions and stuff, as the industry technology tech stack kind of contracted, we were trying to contract our own. Like,
Hmm.
what do we already have that does something similar? What integration platforms out there? So kudos to you for that. That's interesting. That was your. I mean, that's a big problem to take
Yeah, I think at the time I thought it would be simpler than it was,
on.
because I don't think it'll ever end. But it's really just, yeah, just trying to find solutions. And I have found, as much as like there are probably point solutions out there that do a better job than anything that I can build personally, I think it's just so much easier when it's all on one platform. It already talks rather than trying to get
Right.
everything set up and keeping it
Yeah.
from breaking. Because that could be
So
just a lot.
so was Carol the one that put you in the position then?
No, his name was Kelly True, who just retired,
Okay.
but he was one below Carol.
Yeah.
So Carol
Oh,
Duncan was our CEO, is our CEO, but now
right.
she's really involved with SMACNA. So she's
Yeah.
been a
Yeah.
little
She's
busy this year.
she's on the road a little bit. I'm kind of curious what kind of power did they put behind your position? Because
Mhm.
I know again from experience, like not everybody wants you to come in and mess around with their Kool-Aid, and you know I'm fine with you standardizing as long as you pick me as the standard, like my process is the right way.
Mhm.
How have you managed those kind of situations? And did
Sure.
the General Sheet Metal kind of give you the like Jen's the one, she's gonna do it, and you're gonna do what she says?
Uh, a little bit of a mix. I think they gave me some level of leverage, but I think a lot of it really started just from the ground up. I think if I had not worked as a project engineer for 2, 3 years ahead of time, I would not have been as successful doing what I'm doing now. I knew a lot of the foremen personally. I knew almost all the project managers. I knew the sales team. So I was already pretty heavily involved with a lot of the parts of the business. Even as a project engineer, I kept getting pulled into all these side projects about standard operating procedures and how do we improve this process or that process, or helping out with tech anyway. Wasn't really my job, but I
Mhm.
somehow found myself getting involved with it. So when I got the role, I think I already had done a lot of the groundwork in terms of building those relationships. I
Sure.
think those relationships are huge, because if people didn't know me, didn't respect my opinion, didn't trust me to help them if something wasn't working the way they expected, it would be a lot harder to roll this kind of stuff out. And
Sure.
even now, I've been doing that for a while. I've implemented a bunch of different tools already, but each time I feel like I get a little bit better at the messaging leading up to it, giving people enough of a heads up, doing the training and preparation, doing the documentation. It's an ongoing learning curve trying to get ahead. Change management. I mean, you could take,
Mhm.
you could have a whole degree on change management. So
Yes, for
that
sure.
it's ongoing learning experience in that front. But yeah, the relationships and the trust level and the communication has been huge, much more than any you know executive saying, "Listen to Jen." They could just trust me already. And
Right.
we're a small enough company that we can have those kind of personal relationships.
So
Great.
so how did you're using QuickBase to do a lot of the sort of the integration, so to really
Mhm.
pull together all of the sort of purchased off the shelf software and everything. Have you reached a point with QuickBase where you've looked and said, okay, maybe I need to grab some developers to do something, or have you
Mhm.
found it to be overall able to conquer most of the problems that you're addressing?
Overall, I've found it pretty friendly for low code, no code people. I've leaned on my IT manager here and there for some help, creating or connecting APIs and stuff like that. But really went into it not knowing any code whatsoever, and I've been able to build a ton of stuff over time. I've gotten a little better at like writing some custom HTML, learning Jinja, JSON, just a few different languages that are related to data management and web
Mm.
development. Uh, but I by no means can just like sit down and write any of this stuff. I will say AI, that's been huge. I think
Yes.
AI combined
Yeah.
with the low code sphere, the fact that I could just type into ChatGPT, hey, I want to make this HTML button in QuickBase. Like I could tell it QuickBase and send it QuickBase information, and it can do the research for me. So that's been a big game changer to make, I think, these kind of tools a lot more accessible. Uh,
To talk a little bit of current affairs, have you got a
mhm.
chance to try OpenAI 1.0? Because it's crazy.
No, I don't
Okay, so
think so.
they updated. If you have
Yeah.
the pro version of GTP, go
Hmm.
up there, pull it down, and what
Yeah.
they've done is there used to be a product, okay, called
Hmm.
Auto GTP, and what it did is it asked itself questions.
Hmm.
So I would give it like, make me an entire. My kid plays Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, make me something that like randomize make characters for Dungeons and Dragons, and give it a user interface and everything, and it
Hmm.
would sit there and it would make something, then it would self edit. So like kick it back to
Nice.
itself and kind of basically talked to itself until it got it right.
Yeah.
And now they have it all in one platform. So I was wondering if you tried it out because I do a lot of work like you in
Hmm.
development and I started to mess with it. And in terms of building conceptuals and things like that, it's amazing. It's
Hmm.
like the jump between nothing and GTP and this in the next version, it's like pretty close. It's
Yeah.
really scary. So if you haven't tried it, tomorrow when you get in front of your computer, just give it a shot. It came out, I think,
Absolutely.
4 days ago, 5 days ago, Travis.
Yeah, I think about 4 or 5 days ago. Yeah, I haven't played with it too much yet either, but we've definitely been talking about it, and you can even ask it to write the best prompt for it. It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
will definitely be trying that out. Uh, but yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how AI ties into all this stuff. I think a lot of it, when people ask me how are we going to use AI here or just in construction generally, I think so much of that is tied to programs that are out there. Like, I'm not going to go build the best AI bot. It's more of like, hey, what is QuickBase doing to integrate it? What's Microsoft doing to integrate it?
Mhm.
So I'm really excited for more of that to develop because I think it's going to be really helpful. Like, I know QuickBase, I can do a prompt for their AI bot to build a whole new app, and it'll build an app for me in 2 minutes. I have to do some tweaking, but
Right,
the
right.
baseline is really there to get the bones of it up and operational. Uh, so it's been
Yeah.
really cool to see all of the different advancements that are going on in that realm.
It's kind of cool to talk to somebody that like actually is not a coder but needed
Hmm.
like all you're the idea person for the digital coders. You know
Yep.
what I mean? That is something that's brand new because I
Hmm.
don't think that we had any platforms that could really support direct ideation going to at least a minimal product. I mean, that's just brand new. So
Yeah.
with that said, you said
Hmm.
you built them a tech stack, you worked on their processes. You're working on building like automations with
Hmm.
QuickBase to connect everything. Um, so in terms of like the technologies that you're looking at next
Hmm.
to bring into the business for those bigger chunks, what are you looking at? Because I'd assume they're going to give you that as kind of one of your job responsibilities too. You don't just have
Hmm.
to connect it, but you have to tell them what's next.
Yeah, I mean, right now, a lot of what I think will be coming up in the near term is more shop related stuff, and I'm still kind of doing my research on it. But we have a really great fabrication shop. We do a lot of business. We work with a lot of other union shops in the area, but we're not very digitized. We do a lot of stuff still on paper, which, as somebody who kind of hates paper, like my desk, if there's paper on my desk, it's a bad sign because it's usually just really messy notes that I'll never look at ever again because I can't search paper. That's like
Right,
Yeah.
a
right.
big problem of mine. So, um, trying to digitize our shop is kind of my next big push, and it really is kind of a weighing of, do we go with some sort of program that already exists that we can plug into? Do I build something custom in QuickBase? Do I build something custom in Microsoft Power Apps? Is another one that is kind of floating
Mhm.
around.
Mhm. Yep.
So I'm still very much in the early stages of evaluating that, but it's just trying to get more familiar with the fabrication side of things. I know there's some conferences coming up, and I plan on picking a lot of people's brains about that because I'm kind of starting from the ground up here, but just getting more digitization in our shop, getting more data, and just better information. Um, I don't
Good.
want
Yeah,
to. Yeah.
I was gonna take that as an opportunity to convince you to come out to the Smackness Fab Forum in
Hmm.
April. Like um, last year we did it at Pointer, and they're more of a power app shop. They built a lot of stuff. This
Hmm.
year at McCusker Gill, they have out of the box software coupled with some of these low code, no code, but it really is. Um, it, and yes, you should do the Autodesk. You should do
Hmm.
the Procores. You should because there is a broad landscape out there. But um, going to an MCA Tech, a Fab Forum, like you're going to be
Hmm.
there with 200 other people that are trying to do trying to do the same type of work that you do and solve the same problems. And
Right.
that's the reason we have the podcast, is because a lot of the best learning, the best conversations happen in the hallways and around the bar. So
Hmm.
I definitely think that's a great idea, and it's kudos to you in General Sheet Metal for kind of getting yourselves out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would add this about McCusker Gill. They're one of those shops. I went up and visited them last year, a year before.
Hmm.
That's using their fabrication software in ways that the people that created the software weren't really like they've taken the software further than the software thought it could go. Like I
Hmm.
went there and they're using their fabrication software to do their inventories
Hmm.
and some of that too. So I can double down on what Travis said, saying that like not only do a lot of the software providers not represent how their software is being used, sometimes they don't even understand, and the software they're using, it has great people backing it, but
Hmm.
they don't have the time to try everything. And some of these
Right.
contractors, Cusker Gill's a great one. You'll love them. They sort of homebrew the interior solutions,
Hmm.
but they tend to homebrew or create their own solutions out of other solutions, not like taking it to the side where you've taken it off to the side and said, I want something separate like QuickBase that's going
Hmm.
to reach into all these. What I see a lot is like people taking something that they already have and kind of hacking it to do the QuickBase piece that you're
Hmm.
doing more manually. So since you started that journey of looking at the fab shops, what have you got to see so far, or what have you noticed that really was interesting for you? Because I'm sure you have to keep your interest to keep this up.
uh, Man, what is interesting? There's so much just to learn about everything. I mean, on the shop side, it's really just that I've never worked in a fab shop. I would love to go to that heavy metal summer camp just so I could play with some tools. I mean, just getting a better understanding of all the equipment and all the software that's already connected. Going from our VDC department into the shop, we do a lot of both ductwork fabrication, but we also do like ACM panels. We have a really fancy laser. So just getting my arms around all of the different tools that talk to equipment in the shop is already a little bit overwhelming from the jump. Um, but yeah, it all kind of starts with process, right? We've talked about process, people, connecting that. And so for me, I'm starting off really small with our delivery calendar. We have an old school delivery calendar. It's literally in Outlook. So just pulling that from a manual Outlook calendar into something like QuickBase where, okay, it still looks like your Outlook calendar. I'm keeping the color coding. I'm making it familiar so that you're not scared of it. But now we could start tying in like automatic notifications. We could start tying in automations. We could connect it to other systems. We can start tracking, where is the shop order in the process. Order got created. Now it's, at, this piece of equipment or that piece of equipment. Okay, now it's ready to go out to the field. Okay, we already have all the job site information because we're connected to our ERP system. So it's just connecting the dots from all these different tools. I mean, I think by being kind of in the middle of a little bit of everything, I have a better understanding of just what we already have. I don't think there's anybody else in the company that knows what we have available like at any given time. So like I know what I could pull out of our ERP. I know what I could pull out of our job folders. I know what I could pull out of our estimating software because I've used a lot of that stuff in my various roles, or I'm in meetings with project managers that are complaining about it and how it doesn't work. So just knowing what's even possible and then going into these meetings and saying, hey, logistics team, hey, shop team, hey, foreman, what what are your dreams? Like if you could just, create something magically, what do you want it to do? And I can usually find a way of doing that. And they're shocked that it's possible. It's like, yeah, of course it's possible. We have so
Right.
much technology now, but they just don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what's available. So I guess going back to your original question, there's a lot to do with the shop. There's a lot of
Yeah.
learning, but I'm
Hmm.
really just trying to start small, get people used to some of these interfaces, so it's less scary, and then we can start diving into the more complex processes. Uh, it'll take a while.
And that's what we see a lot, is those you get those base hits, those small wins
Mhm.
to build some enthusiasm about the tools that you're delivering. You're kind of touching on the way things that connect up. I mean, in adding shop machinery is no small feat, no small
Mhm.
expense, but have I don't know if General's in the market for anything, but have they started having those conversations with you, like where they come to you and be like, we're thinking about buying this, whatever, this press brake or
Mhm.
whatever it could be. Um, can you make sure that it integrates with whatever you're trying to do in the future? But maybe you're not quite far enough along those lines yet.
We are not quite there yet, but we're definitely getting there. Actually, we had a conversation with our logistics manager this morning, saying he's getting a call set up with our fleet management
Hmm.
company, and there's a tool that they want to sell him to track our fleet, and it's probably going to cost a lot of money, but it sounds cool. Can I join that call and see, hey, is it worth it? Can we do something with what we already have in
Sure.
house? So it's kind of just spreading the message of, hey, I'm here to help.
Right.
I'm here to help you connect those dots. And if there is a better tool out there, by all means, I'm not saying everything has to be QuickBase or Microsoft or something specific, but I want to at least get my arms around what do we even have. Uh, but so making progress. I'll say that. Still early on, but making progress. I think this delivery calendar will be really helpful to get the shop kind of on board with some of the stuff that's
That's
just
awesome.
capable, because they hadn't really had to touch the new stuff I've been working with yet. I've really focused on foremen, project managers, that side of the business.
Well, you use that schedule as an example. Like, do you have a process for your process? Like of building out like stuff. So like how do you go around and look at shops, or are you looking for like answers online, or are you just sitting down with the people there? Just give us a little glimpse into how you like to solve problems. And I thought the schedule is a good one because, like you said, it's got a definable scope.
Mhm.
It's not all over the place.
Yeah, it's simple. Definitely starts talking with people internally, but then it's really going out to my network. I need to go visit more shops. I really would like to go to the Fab Forum in April. But just getting connected with more people as I've gotten more involved with SmackDown in particular, but even just other organizations, going to conferences. I know for QuickBase in particular, they have a really strong like user group atmosphere. So we have a local Portland user group that I go to every month. We have online webinars all the time. So there's usually people within the construction sphere that I can brainstorm with, whether it's about QuickBase in particular or more broadly about construction tech. Just trying to brainstorm with other people out there. I've met so many cool people in the travel and conferences and related things I've been able to do over the past couple of years, and it's been super inspiring and given me ideas that I never would have come up with.
You've got kind of a unique situation up there in the Pacific Northwest too. I know that you're not all super close, but I mean you've got Liz Fong, you've got
Mhm.
Darren Young, you've got
Yeah.
CJ Best, you've got yourself, like all up in that corner. Like you have plenty of people that are close enough and have a friendly competitive relationship that you can
Mhm.
reach out and touch.
Absolutely. I've been working with Liz Fong for we're co-presenting at the MVP Innovation Conference this
Hmm.
coming January, and it's been super fascinating just talking to her and picking her brain because she hasn't done as much of the project management and field related stuff, but she's been super heavy in shop digitization and power apps and all of that. So it's been a really cool collaborative experience working with her, and I'm really excited to get to know her better and talk more as we lead up to that conference.
Yeah.
John, one of the things that I thought was interesting is that most of the time when we're talking to somebody that has your position, especially with the technologies, a lot of them are coming out of the VDC departments and the BIM
Yeah.
departments. And you're like, oh, I did the estimating and you like rattled through some things you did. That wasn't one of them though that I noticed. So have you, I, how have you, because a lot of the data that you're dealing with is coming
Mhm.
from there. Like the BIM is one of those places where we produce a ton of design data at the very least,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to the fab shops. So,
Yeah.
how has your interaction been with the VDC, and like how do you see that part of your business in terms of those next steps that you want to take with the fab shop?
I see it as extremely important. I mean, I think we are we're I guess a mid-sized subcontractor, but we're pretty small. Our VDC team, it's 3 to 4 people depending on how busy we are. I know everyone that's on that team
Yeah.
very well, so it's really just been kind of collaborative, picking their brain, trying to get a better understanding of what we have currently, working with the systems that we have in place. Uh, so yeah, I really just kind of lean on them to help hold my hand on the things that I'm not as familiar with. But I definitely it's been really interesting getting involved with so many construction tech related events, people, etc., because there are a lot of VDC centric minds. I feel like it's like a lot of VDC, some IT, and then I'm kind of sitting over here being like, well, I don't know. I walked around the job site and took pictures for a couple of years, and sat in a lot of contentious meetings. But I think it gives me a different perspective on it because I'm coming at it not necessarily from strictly the construction tech side. I'm coming at it from more of, okay, what are the issues we deal with general contractors? Where have I gotten in trouble with project delays? Hey, what are the foremen dealing with that's making their jobs harder? A lot of my initial efforts were around daily reports. How can I make it easier for them to fill out daily reports and submit time for a crew of 30 people when they're busy? Is there, can I automate it? Can I pre-fill stuff out for them? What can I do to make this faster? So as much as I feel like I have a lot of catching up to do on the BIM and VDC side, I also really enjoy kind of having a different perspective and coming from more of that field project management because I don't think I hear that as much.
We so desperately need it. And Liz is, I think, in a similar boat where she's not primarily VDC. Like if you go to the VDC departments, we have hired all the best technology. We have scanners. I think my VDC tech budget was like, it was 3 or 4x everything else combined in my entire company. So like, and because we talk tech and we have tech, we tend to get more and more, but it's been tough to find people like you that are willing on the project management side to take a tech role and really lead that, just because it doesn't exist. So it's awesome that you're there. I hope we see more of that. I will say that we're kind of spoiled in VDC because if we ask for tech, we typically get it. If for no other reason than no one else understands what we're talking about, and that's always helpful. So in terms of in terms of, I hate to even ask you this, but in terms of career path, because you're kind of starting and like you said, they built a position for you, and that can always be a little bit of a double-edged sword, because if you have a position built for you, it's not part of a standard progression into other things. And your interests seem to be tech, so maybe you just keep rolling and whatever. But is there anything that you see in your future that you think is part of the role of an integrator that is that next step? Like what are you looking at?
I mean, I think for me, my career path, I don't foresee my day-to-day job changing all that much, but really just going from integration manager to, CIO, CTO, director of innovation, whatever title you want to put on that. But just, I feel like I'm already doing it to a certain extent, but trying to get all of our technology from the shop and VDC and project management, getting it all under one umbrella. We are a smaller company. I don't think we necessarily need that level of structure yet, but I think we're hoping to grow. We're hoping to keep expanding. We're bringing on different parts of the business. So I fully plan and hope that 5 years down the road, we'll be bigger revenue-wise, size-wise, that I can justify having a couple minions that can do the things that I'm doing day to day. So I can really focus on bigger picture, more strategic technology decisions.
I was just going to say, I think you'll get to that point because you'll build a beast that needs to be managed, right? And you need to have be able to step back and have some forward thinking strategy on that.
Right. But I think that's my biggest thing is just the focus on technology. From a strategic standpoint, I think we all talk about tech. We get excited about tech. It's always funny to go to these conferences and there's a lot of presidents and CEOs and VPs, and they hear the latest buzzword and that's so cool. Hey, Jen, go look into it. And sure, I will absolutely look into it. But I think sometimes it's missing, especially these smaller companies where you just don't have the people or the background to do it. But thinking strategically about tech, how can we use this data better? How can we use it to estimate better? How can we use it to execute projects better? How can we use it to fabricate better? What tools are we using? Get rid of the crap that we don't actually get value out of. We're collecting all this data. What's actually useful and what's not? What can we just stop collecting because it's taking up space and confusing people? And I think it takes a certain perspective that you don't always have either a person to fill that role or you don't have room for that role. And I'm hoping to kind of grow into that higher level as it's appropriate. But I mean, already in the past couple of years, I originally was kind of on an island by myself, just doing nerdy tech stuff, and now I'm managing our project engineers. I'm above our IT manager, so just trying to bring these kind of support positions under kind of one umbrella, working together, collaborating more, coming up with solutions as a team. has been a change over the past few months, but I'm excited about it, and I think it's going to help kind of lead us toward that long-term, more strategic goal, because technology is not going anywhere. And
Right.
if you want to be competitive and successful in the current era, I think you have to be forward thinking about those kinds of things.
So I
So
think you've built out a pretty good roadmap for yourself there. John, I'm going to interrupt you because something's been spinning in the back of my mind. So, John gave you the rules when we started. We don't promote anyone, but we also try not to openly bash. But you were talking about ERP, working with your ERP system.
Mhm.
They are notoriously closed off and difficult to work with.
Yes.
So this is your opportunity to either give them kudos or throw some jabs. Like, how hard has that been? And if you're fine with it, you can share which ERP you're working
Yeah. So we use Sage 100 Contractor, which is
with.
an older ERP.
Okay. Hmm.
We are probably too big for it. It is meant for smaller contractors, so that's
Sure.
on us for not moving off it when we kind of grew out of it. I will say that is probably the hardest thing that I have tried to tackle over the past 2 years. Um, it's not that it works fine for accounting, and there's a lot of people who really love it, and I appreciate them, and I don't want to bash them. But trying to get data out of it and in a usable fashion has been kind of a nightmare. It took months to solve that problem, and it's still something I'm kind of working through. So luckily we found some partners that could get it into QuickBase in a way that was usable, and it's been really helpful for giving access to our project managers for better reporting, higher level metrics, KPIs, all that kind of good stuff. I'm getting much better at working with it. Uh, but yeah, it's been challenging. I think the tool itself is just a little outdated. I know Sage itself would say, "Hey, use our new latest greatest
Mhm.
version." So I don't think they'll be too sad to hear that. I don't love 100, but it's
Well,
been
and they're
challenging.
they're a little bit victims of their own success or just the mindset. Like most of those ERP systems just did start off as an accounting system, and there
Mhm.
wasn't a lot of other technology out in the marketplace. So like, yeah, we can build a project management
Mhm.
module. We can build a service module. It's like,
Why not?
yeah, why not?
I mean, I think for me though, at this point, we've more or less kind of solved like getting the information out of it that we need for project management related purposes. I think it's getting the mind shift internally because we were so reliant on it for so long. Like that, to your point, that was the technology. They added the modules and they say that they can run everything, but it's not the best tool for a lot of that
Right,
stuff. So it's convincing people, hey, yeah, we had to lean on Sage for all of our reporting across the board forever, but we don't have to do that anymore.
right.
If we're pulling from different systems or if we are kind of creating something from scratch, if it doesn't have to go into Sage for accounting purposes, leave it out of Sage. Like it doesn't
Exactly.
have to go through this filter. So I think at this point it's less of a struggle. It's more of just convincing people of, hey, there's a different way of going about this. And it's just not what we're used to historically, but it's easier and it works better and it saves me a lot of headaches if we just kind of go around that system for stuff that's not
Yeah.
not accounting relevant.
Right. John, I think you had something.
oh yeah, um I was looking at kind of so I had to build a sheet metal program too, and I'm not a sheet metal person. Like I could do it engineering wise, but I'm not a sheet metal person. So I kind of had to build out a system, and in the midst of that, I was learning way more about sheet metal than I ever thought I would have to learn. And what I ended up actually doing was what I think you had kind of hinted at is I kind of learned too much, and I ended up with not a great perspective on how it could be cleaned up, because I'm like, oh no, you need this small half inch of extra sheet metal, like you can't get rid of that, and it's just
Mhm.
so important. If the program can't support that, I can't use it. How important do you think it was to come in without all of that sort of background in the industry? Because especially on this show, we have a lot of echo chamber that goes on where we're all like,
Mhm.
oh
Mhm.
yeah, 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 and then we'll get somebody who's from outside the industry and they'll be like, of course not, why would you ever do that? So like,
Mhm.
has it really played in, just not, has the ignorance helped on the details?
Yes, I would say it has. I think anytime you can get different perspectives, it's valuable. And obviously, construction, you want people who have trade knowledge, who know how to build things, who have gone through that experience before. But when you're talking about something kind of adjacent, just getting a different point of view can sometimes be a light bulb moment. Like, this is not tech related, but I remember like my second week on the job, I was sitting in a design meeting for an architectural project, and we were talking about this like wall panel piece that it was like a perf panel, and it was going around a light fixture, and we wanted to make sure that surface people could access the light once it was installed. And I was like, well, what if you just like put a hinge on it? And like, that's such a great idea. And so, because they're talking about, French cleats and like fancy different attachment methods, and how do you hide the screw? I'm like, just make it so you can open it. Uh, so simplified example, but I think just coming to your point, not getting too in the weeds with stuff and just being able to throw stuff against the wall can be really helpful. I feel like I lean on other people for that same kind of thing with the tech. Like, I'm so in the weeds with all of our tech solutions, with the QuickBase and the Microsofts and the Sage, that sometimes I love it when like one of my project engineers just asks like a silly, simple question. I'm like, you know what? That's a great idea. I love to get ideas from other people because I know I'm guilty of being in the weeds in my own way. So it's just kind of having those open conversations and giving people permission to raise their hand and say, hey, what about this? Or, hey, that doesn't really make sense to me. It's been very valuable going both directions in my experience.
And Nathan Woods is, and one of the nicest things he's actually ever said to me was that he says you do a pretty good job of being the professional amateur, and it took me for a second to think about that, but it is helpful to come from, to use John's word, the place of ignorance. Like, when I ask why, it's not to demean or belittle you. Why are you doing this? Like, I really don't understand, and I need somebody to explain to me. Now, I may ask why 3 or 4 times after that because it still doesn't make sense, and then we kind of get to that, the 5 whys and the root cause and everything. But it's definitely a learned trait to get to that and to come up with those random ideas out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to pivot us just a little bit, and just because we're into the show, so we can be a little bit more nerdy. Since you did actually pull together a tech stack, which is something that I think every business has to do. Like, you have to have a tech stack, and it has to be usable to you, however you did it. But can you give us a rundown a little bit of like what you're using right now and like sort of your trajectory, or on the VDC side, do you know like what their tech stack looks like?
On the VDC side, I mean, it's mostly just the Autodesk suite. I know when we get billed for it, it's all just Autodesk. But I mean, they use Revit, they use CAD. I don't think they use anything too crazy. I know we use. I feel like we've dabbled with a bunch of different programs, and I'm still trying to clean some of them up. Where it's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let's get one license and get away from that. So I'm not going to lie, VDC wise, I know we use a lot of Autodesk solutions. We don't use Stratus. We don't use
M Suite
nothing too crazy. ERP, we already talked about that one.
Do you guys have reality capture going yet?
We have done some 3D scanning and drone usage. We have not done, I don't think we have any reality capture for walking around the job site with like the 360 cameras or anything.
I was totally talking about the scanning. I put them all kind of in a giant bucket of getting digital versions of this site in. So you do have some of that going on right now, and then you don't have a digital fab shop because you were talking about being analog. And I always think it's neat for companies to kind of say, this is where we're at in our journey, especially since you're likely to have other people that are in sheet metal listen to this. So they'll reach out and be like, oh my gosh, you're on that. Here's the solution. So like, how do you deliver, I guess this is an easy one. How do you deliver drawings to the job site right now, or PDFs or whatever?
Mostly job folders on OneDrive or SharePoint.
On OneDrive,
and they open it up in Bluebeam, and it's super high tech. But yeah, just kind of we migrated to cloud job folders probably about a year ago. It was one of the early initiatives that I took on with our IT manager. To this day, we're still trying to work out the best way of organizing it to make sure it syncs quickly and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've used PlanGrid and Procore and all those tools through general contractors, but we haven't brought something like that on internally just because so much of the time, it's kind of dependent on whatever the JC is using. I think that's been one challenge. Just being as a subcontractor, you are so much, beholden to the general contractor for all these big projects and whatever they have going on. So you kind of just have to roll with
Roll
it and
with
be
them.
prepared.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you try
yeah.
the studios in Bluebeam yet?
Yeah,
Because
we've used that on and off. Different project teams still have kind of some flexibility of what they want to use it for. I know I've used Bluebeam Studios on a couple of my bigger architectural projects, just because it seems like a good way of collaborating, um, but getting that kind of consistency across the board. And we have a lot of small projects as well, so it's trying to find what's scalable and what are those kind of bounds of, if it's under this size job, don't worry about it. If it's over, do it this way. And so we're still trying to work through procedurally how to be consistent without being burdensome to the different
totally,
size
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah.
totally. Is that why you were out at Procore though? Or are you looking at Procore as a possible delivery system in some of those solutions, or were you just kind of exploring what was out there?
I was mostly exploring. To be honest, I got free tickets to that event,
Oh,
so
so
that was
free
a great
tickets.
excuse to
That
go.
helps
That
a lot.
is,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it was like the second week in my current role, and so it was really great timing to
Mhm.
go to a show where there was, I mean, the trade floor was filled with every like construction tech software you could possibly imagine. I've used Procore on multiple projects, so I'm pretty familiar with the platform, just generally speaking. So I've definitely looked into it. Just pricing model. It's
Right.
not cheap. If you
No.
if you go deep with it, it's worthwhile. I know another one that we have internally that we'll probably get away from is Toolwatch. We've used that for some inventory management. Cool tool, you could do a ton with it, but we're only using it for like this one little thing. So it's like, why are we just trying to streamline a
Sure.
lot of that?
And some of those are really interesting because like Toolwatch has a lot of competitors that are free tools
Yeah.
and
Right.
free or low cost, and trying to figure out like whether they add enough value to really be worth
Mhm.
the ticket. I actually like Toolwatch. It does do more than tools if you mess with it. I don't know
Mhm.
if it's worth it for everyone, but it's definitely like like I used it. I thought I had great results.
Yeah.
But I've used the free ones too and had the same.
Yeah.
What are some other areas right now where you're evaluating just in general?
Mostly the shop fabrication piece, which
Yeah.
doesn't tie into BDC as well. So just kind of streamlining that and utilizing the data that we already have. A lot of it is less about going out and looking for other programs, and it's really just getting a good handle on what we have internally. So I think the ERP was my first really big hurdle.
Yeah.
And now that that's more or less behind me, it's jumping into some of these other programs. I can't wait to start digging into both our like BIM data and then our estimating software, and just trying to clean up how we do estimates, and how we really evaluate how we performed on jobs versus bids, and that entire life cycle of um,
You're yeah,
estimation.
you're really kind of you're hitting the holy trinity of construction
Mhm.
technology, construction data. Like, and don't cast away the OneDrive SharePoint. Like, I mean, that's a big undertaking, and it's a very important undertaking to start getting
Mhm.
all your job files in one easily shareable place. And then the Fab Shop makes the most sense. Like, you're I would say personally, you're on the right trajectory of the things
Mhm.
that you're trying to tackle. So yeah, just keep at it. I think that you've got a good roadmap.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Hopefully, I'm on the right track.
So we are getting close to the top of the hour. And I did want to ask you what you're excited about. So like you're getting to go out and see things
Mhm.
and you're getting to visit around. What are you the most excited about moving forward, and what are you looking forward to other than obviously Travis going to your event?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely excited about the MEP Innovation Conference in January. I'm also going to SMACNA's national convention for the first time this coming October. So I'm really excited about that, just kind of a first time experience. Um, Other than that, hopefully just making some more connections locally. I know GSM, we're part of a peer group, and we're actually hosting kind of a mini conference and shop tour um, in about 3 weeks. And I've been really heavily involved in planning that. So that's going to be a really great chance to walk a bunch of people from other companies through our shop, through our technology and everything. And I can't wait to pick their brains and get their feedback. from a group of peers that are in the MEP space. I think that's going to be extremely valuable.
Yeah, yeah. Peer groups are very important.
Mhm.
And being willing to hear somebody tell you that your baby's ugly, like,
Yeah.
and take that criticism is very important. So
Hmm.
hopefully that goes well for you guys.
Fingers crossed.
Well, with that, I will definitely see you at the MEP Innovation Conference. I'm going to be there too, and
Cool.
I always find that to be one of the better conferences of the year. And I think I'm actually doing some tech stack stuff this time too. So maybe I'll get to see your class with Liz, and maybe you can check out one of mine. And with that, we wrap up episode 88 with Jen and Clark. We'll see you back here for episode 89.